mental health. So I hope you will join me. Please, we're on Facebook Live. We are on 87.7 FM. You can call in on 0116 482 2086. That's 0116 482 2086. You can text and WhatsApp on 07748 855 055. That's 07748 855 055. Okay, so last week we were talking about overall mental health, and I told you about some of the statistics. 1 in 4 people in England experience a mental health problem in any given year. That's 1 in 4 people. So that's a huge amount. And what we discussed was these were people that are known to services. These are people that actually have a diagnosis. There are plenty of people who actually do not access services, do not have a diagnosis. So we know there are more than 1 in 4. 75% of people who experience mental health difficulties or having mental health problems or struggling with their mental health actually do not access a service. So we know there are more. And given the pandemic, even more so. So I think mental health is really important. It's really important that we talk about mental health. Now, talking about women today, just want to say, in England, around 1 in 5 women have a common mental health problem. And that is usually anxiety, depression, or self-harm. They are the most common in terms of women. And that includes our own community. This is not, exclusive to any community. This is everybody. It includes everybody, including women from ethnic minorities, women from faith backgrounds, including our Muslim backgrounds. So really, really important that we talk about mental health. And as I said last week, we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. And just like at times our physical health is affected, whether that be a cold or you are diagnosed with a health condition, the same way your mental health at times in life is impacted, and it will go up and down depending on what happens to you or what's going on either internally or externally. It can be many factors. So it's really important, just as we need to know how to take care of our physical health, that we know how to take care of our mental health. Give me a call if you want to talk about women's mental health today on 0116 48 22086. That's 0116 48 22086. Or you can WhatsApp or messages on 077. Oh, we've got a caller. No caller? Okay. So give us a call, or you can text us or WhatsApp us on 01148 855 055. That's 077 488 55055. Okay. We've got Raheema joining us later on today. She's a busy lady, so she will be joining us in about half an hour. So I look forward to having some conversations with her. So given that we're talking about women's mental health, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the kind of things that might affect your mental health. So it can be physical changes to our bodies. It can be things like our periods, menstruation. It could be that during the time before we start our periods, we are struggling with our moods change, irritability. It could be all sorts of things, and they can have an impact. And there's actually a syndrome called premenstrual syndrome and PMDD, which is a premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So those are people with very severe symptoms. So during that period of time before their period is starting, maybe up to 2 weeks, where they can experience low mood, they can have a depressive episode, all sorts of changes, physical and emotional changes, and it can be a really difficult time. And it can be quite debilitating for people, for women. So I think it's really important we talk about these things. Another aspect could be for women who are in their 40s, experiencing perimenopause. It's an extremely difficult time, lots of physical changes. The hormone imbalances have a huge impact, and it can increase you developing a mental health problem. Not everyone, but it can for some people. And I know I really struggled during that time in my life. And menopause is an extremely difficult time for people. And there are treatments out there, natural herbal treatments. There are obviously medication, HRT, hormone replacement therapy. These things to consider, but also maybe talking to somebody, increasing your physical activity, your exercise, self-care. What are you doing for yourself? As women, we are so used to giving, whether that be caring for our families, our children, our partners, our parents, our in-laws, caring for everybody else. And if we're working, again, we often play a caring role. We're supporting other people, even if we're leaders and managers, managing teams. That caring aspect is there naturally in us, and many of us, I'm not generalizing, we'll do that. We're givers, we're not really takers, but we're not very good at giving to ourselves. So it's really, really important. Give me a call if you want to talk about this on 0116 4822 086. That's 0116 482 22086. And you can WhatsApp us on 077 4885 5055. That's 077 488 55055. So, when we're talking about women's mental health, and something that comes along a lot for me is domestic abuse. So obviously in my line of work, which is legacy, often I've got women contacting me who are in abusive relationships, and it has had a psychological effect on them, and their mental well-being is not good, and they're really struggling. So on top of being abused on a daily basis, whether that be physically, emotionally, psychologically, they are struggling to try and cope with everything that's going on around them. Often they will have family responsibilities, work responsibilities, and the control from the partner. It could be in-laws as well. It could be their own family. The abuse has a massive impact on their life. We've got a message. I've learned I have to give myself space and time for my own well-being. What tips do you have for helping women explain to their families that they need space? I think it's really important to have those dialogues and those conversations, Raheema. I totally agree with you. And I think what the difficulty is when we're not used to saying what we want and we're just kind of go with the flow, it can be really hard. And being assertive and being confident is difficult. However, you have to have those conversations, whether that be give the examples of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives and the Sahabas, the companions of the Prophet, and you give examples from a beautiful deen of how Allah has told us, that our body and our mind is a gift from Allah. We are Allah's creation. We will be answerable for everything. So in the same way, we are answerable how we take care of our health, how we take care of our mental health, and self-care is a really important aspect. And if we are to worship, if we are to do acts of worship, charitable acts, and contribute to society as Muslims, we need to be well to do it. If we are to take care of our children, upbringing of our children, the tarbiyah, if we are to care for our loved ones, whatever it is, all those responsibilities, they can't happen if we're not well. So it's really important to have those conversations. So maybe it's giving examples from, our beautiful faith. It may be you've got one person in the family who understands, maybe, I don't know if you're living with extended family, maybe a sister-in-law, you have a good relationship with your mother-in-law or your husband, your partner, your siblings, whoever it is. And I think for you out there, role models such as mothers and grandmothers, role model that. Show them that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's not selfish to take time out. It's not selfish to say no. Because you see, if you put that time in for yourself, you're going to be able to give back. But if you're empty, how can you give back? You're going to end up crashing. And I get that quite often from women contacting me who are burnt out. They're exhausted. because the house needs to be immaculate, all the time, because, somebody's going to pick fault. What are people going to say? The pressure we put on ourselves. The food has to be perfect. I have to be perfect. You have to look a certain way. All those things, the pressure mounts, having to be a perfect parent, having to be everything. The expectations are so high, and I think that is a huge problem for many people. Come on, callers. Nobody's calling me today. Nobody wants to talk about women's mental health. Come on. Give me a call on 0116 4822 That's 0116 4822 If you want to WhatsApp or text, it's 077 488 55055. That's 077 4885 5055. Okay. So, talking about mental health, I'm just going to give you a definition from the World Health Organization. Mental health is not just the absence of a mental disorder. It is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his society. I know it's very long-winded, but actually it's a good description around quality of life. And if you're mentally well, you're able to contribute to your society, to your community. You're able to give so much more. Another definition from Mind. In many ways, mental health is just like physical health. Everybody has it, and we need to take care of it. Good mental health means being generally able to think, feel, and react in the ways that you need and want to live your life. Now, that's a nice, simple description, but both of them, describe mental health really, really well. So what do you do to take care of your health so that you're able to keep well? What are the things you're currently doing? So as women, often, like I said, we put ourselves last. So what are you doing on your daily, during Ramadan? What's your day look like? What are you doing? Is it all about, I need to do this for so-and-so, I need to do this for so-and-so? How much time are you putting in for yourself? How much time are you putting in your ibadah, the quality of your ibadah, because you're so exhausted? Is it rushed because you've got to go and do something else? So think about these things, and maybe don't put so much expectations on yourself. Get the family involved. Get them doing the dishes as well. Don't do it all by yourself and think, oh, well, poor things, they've all been fasting, so I won't trouble them. You've been fasting too, So it's really important you give yourself some time and you ask for help. If you are struggling, ask for help. Don't do it on your own. So given that a quarter of British adults will experience a mental health problem in any 1 year, of which anxiety and depression are most common, that is a huge amount of people. So a quarter of British adults. And out of those, when we look at England, 1 in 5 women have a common mental health problem, such as anxiety, depression, or self-harm. So when we're talking about depression, what do we mean? So it can differ depending on who you are and how it's affecting you. But some of the signs may be that you've got low mood that's lasted for more than 2 weeks. You may be either sleeping too much or not sleeping at all. Loss of appetite, maybe comfort eating. I've got a message from Kirit. Okay, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. Sister Jamila, so it's Rehana Kirit, but no problem. Lots of people call me that because of Jamila's legacy. Good that you are raising awareness of mental health, as we still have lots of stigma which needs addressing. We from South Asian Health Action have developed South Asian community mental health and well-being ambassadors in the community to help support, handhold and signpost when needed, but we also give self-care tips. Happy to collaborate as we need more ambassadors. Definitely Kirit will be in touch. Thank you so much. And this is it, you see, when we're working with services, I know that with my advocacy work, often have to intervene and work as a bridge between families and services, or advocate on behalf of parents or an individual struggling with their mental health. There isn't the cultural awareness and the understanding amongst professionals, and this is vital to be able to understand the needs of an individual and what kind of service they need, and in terms of developing future services. So absolutely great work, Kirit. Brilliant. Okay, so talking about women and depression. So I was saying to you that we talk about common signs of depression. So you may have low mood for more than 2 weeks. It could be you have insomnia, unable to sleep, or you sleep too much, you're sleeping all the time. You're fatigued, extreme fatigued. You're either completely gone off food, don't like anything, so that loss of appetite, or you're eating all the time. And basically, you start feeling just like nothing matters, and just not yourself. So if this carries on for 2 weeks, you may have anxiety as well with it. It's important that you speak to somebody, and it might be worth actually going to see your GP and say, look, I'm not feeling great. A lot of people rule out going to see the GP because they're concerned, oh my goodness, they're just going to prescribe medication. Not necessarily. Have a conversation. You are the patient. You have a choice. But it's important to get those informed choices, and a GP as professionals will be able to give you that advice. There is also lots of self-help out there. If you are feeling really low and really struggling and have no one to talk to, there are helplines out there that you can call, Samaritans, for example. If it's around grief, it could be Cruise. There are many other organizations out there. If you do a Google, you'll find them. There are also text services for young people. There's a Muslim Youth Helpline. There are many, many services out there that you can access. Obviously, there's Gymnast Legacy as well. But whatever works for you, you do that. And if medication is one of those things, then that's all good as well, because whatever works for you is what you need to do. And some people need a combination. So you women out there who are listening, please give me a call on 0116 482206. If you're concerned about, having to name yourself, you can stay absolutely anonymous. We had a sister call in last week, and she was anonymous. If you'd like to do that, we respect your privacy, no issues at all. And even if you're not a female and you want to call in, by all means call in, because all mental health is really important. Okay, so we've got a message from women who are getting abused are trapped. They believe the abuser will change. They keep giving him one more chance. The man will apologize and say he won't do it again, but slowly he will start abusing the woman. So, and you know what? This is quite common for the kind of calls I get in my line of work, the kind of women I'm supporting, that it's really difficult to get out of that trap, that cycle, when the abuser, the perpetrator, makes you think that he loves you and he's sorry and he won't do it again, and then it happens again and again and again. And often what happens with domestic abuse is that the abuser will make sure that he takes away any support you have. So first of all, it's generally he, but I'm going to tell you that obviously it does happen the other way as well. Women do abuse men as well. And, recently I've been working with men who are experiencing domestic abuse, so I do know that it exists, but it's far more common that women are victims and survivors of domestic abuse. So one of the first things that often happens with domestic abuse is that the perpetrator will try to isolate you. So he will say, you can't go to your family, you can't be with your friends, you can't go out, where are you going? He'll try to control every move of yours. Then he will try and make you dependent on him in every way, whether that's emotionally, physically, practically, so financially. So he's able to trap you and you're unable to leave that relationship. So it can be extremely, extremely difficult. Sometimes there'll be threats that you're not fit enough, you're not well enough, I'm going to inform on you to social services and they're going to take the children away from you, or I'm going to keep the children, you're never going to have the children. So these are the kind of things that can make a woman stay in that abusive relationship, and it has a huge impact on her mental health. Not only that, it has an impact on the environment you're bringing your children up in. Often, victims will tell me, well, no, he's not hitting the children, so it's okay. He's not abusing the children, so it's okay. However, if you think about the environment you're in, children are very sharp. They know when things are wrong. We've got a caller, so I'm going to take this call and then we'll come back. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Hello, who's that?
This is Rehana. Assalamu alaikum, sister. You okay?
Yes, Aisha. Am I live? No.
You are? You're on
Oh.
live now. Are you okay?
Okay.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, wa alaikum salam. It's Aisha, Acharya.
We've got an echo in the
Oh,
background.
shall I turn this off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's better. Right, Sister Aisha, what would you like to say?
I finished my session just now at St Matthew's,
Okay.
my self-care, and I thought I'll go to Aldi's. I was in the car park, parking up, listening to your radio show, and I thought I just want to go in and get some fruit and veg, but no, I had to come home because I just wanted to ring in and say how important it is, all this, what you're talking about, and you're just echoing my story. Yeah.
Jazakallah so much, sister. So we've been talking about domestic abuse and the impact on women's mental health, and obviously overall today we're talking about women's mental health. So anything you'd like to say, share, we really would welcome that, and hopefully it'll help our listeners as well to have an understanding.
Yeah, dear listeners, please get help. If any of you, or first of all, very often we don't recognize what abuse is. And the things that you're pointing out, Rehana, first thing, they tend to isolate you, cut you off from the outside world. Or if there's what you call gaslighting, where you just believe everything they're saying because you start doubting yourself and, your confidence is broken. You have no confidence, no self-esteem. And when you're broken, you just believe everything and anything and you feel you've got no way out. Or you think it's okay, your situation, that's how it's supposed to be. But that's not how it's supposed to be. If there is any form of abuse, because we have to remember, Allah in all of this. And like you said, Rehana, that, it affects your worship. You really struggle. Mental health impacts on absolutely everything. And, this happened to me, and I've come through. And I'm doing a lot of self-care now. So I'm looking after myself and
Mashallah.
putting
Mashallah,
my
Aisha.
health first. Yeah, you have to look after your mental health. You have to look after yourself first, so then you can carry on and having a happy, healthier, lifestyle.
Mashallah, that's some really, really good advice. And Jazakallah so much, Aisha, for sharing. But if you could stay on the line, I just wanted to say, we've got a break coming up, but I just wanted to say to you that I think there will be listeners out there who can relate to your story, but it's wonderful to see that you've managed to get out of that abusive relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And there is light after the tunnel.
Mm.
And mashallah, may Allah bless you. May Allah keep you safe and well. And Jazakallah for your support. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so we're coming up to the break now, and then we'll be joined by Raheema, alhamdulillah, and then we'll talk more about women's mental health. So if you need to call in, the number is 0116 4822 0116 4822 Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. You're listening to Ramadan FM on 87.7 FM. And you're with me, Rehana Sidat, on our weekly mental health show with our co-presenter, Raheema. Thank you for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me. I'm so sorry that I late into the show, but Jazakallah for having me nonetheless. I was trying to tune in to the first half of the discussions, and I think that some of the points raised were really interesting, really vital, that we let our listeners know about the different types of conditions that can affect women's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're literally part of our natural life cycles, life stages, going into premenopausal, menopausal, pregnancy.
Yeah.
And all of these life stages that many women will go through, we have to acknowledge them.
Absolutely. And I think one we haven't touched on yet is pregnancy and postnatal depression. So, Raheema, as a mum yourself, and obviously me as well, I think this would be an area maybe we start talking about. Before we do, I'm just going to read out some stats. Women between the ages of 16 and 24 are almost 3 times as likely to experience a common mental health issue as males of the same age. So 26% of women between the ages of 16 and 24 experience a common mental health issue. So that's that very vulnerable young age. And often, if you're like me, I was married between that time. I was already a mother of 2 by 24. So if we think about that and then link it with mental health, you've gone through some traumatic things. They're happy occasions, but they are also traumatic, big life-changing things that happen to us. And women are twice as likely to be diagnosed with anxiety as men. And that could be a combination of reasons. It may be that women are coming forward more. It could be that women are affected more. Men are reporting less. So it could be a combination. And my final statistic, more than 25% of women aged between 16 to 24 report having self-harmed at some point in their life.
It's a really sad statistic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because and just going back to what you mentioned about the postnatal depression, I think there's definitely more awareness now about postnatal depression, and it's much more spoken about than it ever has been. And I think that's really important to also acknowledge. And when you've just got married, you've had your first child, you may have got your first home, you may be living with in-laws, it can be really, really overwhelming. And and I feel like I experienced a certain degree of postnatal depression with my firstborn 13 years ago. I just remember, I think my mom or my mother-in-law was holding this little bundle of joy. And I was sat on the kitchen floor just crying. And I don't know why I was crying. I was supposed to be experiencing joy, but I was far from it. And it was really tough.
I'm sure there are a lot of our listeners that can relate, and I totally can relate, because I had 4 pregnancies, and after all 4, I've had postnatal depression. In the beginning, I wasn't educated in mental health, and I didn't have the mental health awareness I have now, and I didn't even realise I had postnatal depression. In fact, when I had my 3rd child, I remember I discharged myself out of hospital. I actually wasn't well enough to come home, but because of my mental state, I'd come home. My midwife was so concerned. She was ringing me every day to check in on me, to check that I was okay. And we didn't have the kind of support groups that we have now. I mean, health visitors are very understanding, but again, they're limited to how much support they can give you. There are things out there now, services. Home Start is one of those. So anybody out there that is struggling, please do, access that service.
Yeah, have a befriender service. They can put you in touch with someone who can give you that one-to-one tailored support. Home Start do. And I was just thinking, for local women who are listening in Leicester, the Wesley Hall Mamas group.
That's right.
They're also really, really good for pre and postnatal support. There's lots of well-being activities for mom as well as baby massage. And I think once you put yourself out there as getting out into the community and making new friends and doing things with your baby, that will definitely put you in a better place mentally as well.
Yeah. And I think the mamas group, they've now they started with Highfields area, which is fantastic, but they're now expanded. So and you know they're made up of you know other mums who volunteer. They're multilingual. They come from all sorts of different cultural backgrounds, so they're able to support you. So if, like me, you really struggled with breastfeeding, they could help you with that.
Yeah, I remember Sally had come to do a couple of home visits with me 13 years ago, and I will never forget someone saying, "You can do this, you can do it," and she was just ever so supportive. Because
you can start feeling very inadequate. You already have doubts when you become a parent, and like, can I do this? Am I good enough? And then when you struggle with things like breastfeeding, you think, oh, that's it, I'm a total failure. And I think it can be a huge issue. So having that support is really important. And of course, some people have family support, but not everybody does. We have to remember that as well. And even if you have family support, you may need additional support. For those people out there listening, thinking, well, it's a happy time, what's the problem? It can be an extremely frightening time. There are concerns during the pregnancy where, you know, you're anxious, and you're more anxious than you normally are. You're frightened. Could something happen during labour? Is my baby, you know, I've not heard my baby kick. That can scare you. You could be rushing to hospital for that. You may have preeclampsia, which is raised blood pressure, and, you know, it could put you at risk. You could have a traumatic labour, and I know I've had those, and I think that's what that trauma actually impacted on me, and that's why I ended up with postnatal depression each time. And having a cesarean, it's still surgery. You're being cut. You know, it is trauma. It's trauma,
thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So trauma to the body has a huge impact on our mental health. So I think it's all these things. And then if you're feeling overwhelmed, you talked about being overwhelmed. Everybody's so joyful and happy around you, and all of a sudden you're exhausted. You're up all night, and then, you know, you've got visitors and the expectation of visitors, and you're trying to, you know, converse with people, but you don't feel like it. And then you feel rubbish because you weren't very friendly to people.
Yeah, so I feel like more recently it's become okay to say, hi, just letting you guys know we're not ready for friends and family.
Raheema, we've got a caller, we'll come back. Okay, go for it. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you for calling in, sister. What would you like to say?
I want to stay anonymous.
That's okay.
I just want to say, how are you both? Hope you're well.
Alhamdulillah. How are you, sister?
Right, I wrote this poem about 2 weeks ago, as I was feeling very low again.
Okay.
And I wrote down exactly how I was feeling at that time. Okay. It is called Falling.
Go ahead, sister.
I am falling, slowly falling again, into a bottomless pit. Cannot feel the end of the pit, as there is no end. There is no way out. So dark, very dark. I will never get out. Still falling. Yet I can hear voices telling me to wake up, get up. You can get out. Can I? Really? What if I don't want to? What if I want to keep falling? Still falling. No one can stop me from falling, can they? No one can force me to get out, can they? No one can really get me out though, can they? Still falling. Can only see darkness. There is no light. There is no way. There is nothing. Nothing at all. Still falling. I am no good. I am worthless. I am nothing. I have no value. There is no point in carrying on. Still falling. There is no way. How can I get out if there is no light to guide me? If there is no hand to help me get out? If there is no way I can get out? Still falling. If only I could see the light. If only I could feel the helping hand. If only I could see the hope. If only I could have the faith. If only. Maybe then I can get up. Maybe
then I can get out, then maybe I may begin to have more hope. I may begin to have more faith in myself. Maybe then I can feel better about myself, feel positive about myself, and feel like going out to help others who have fallen and are still falling. Jazakallah khairan.
Barakallah. Thank you so much, sister, for that very moving poem. I hope you're getting the help you need. And that last comment about helping others, you're helping them now. You're helping somebody out there who is struggling and can really relate to what you're saying. And I hope you will continue helping people. And if you need help yourself, please do get in touch. Take care, sister. And so that's another way. We talked about this last week, didn't we? That express yourself, even if it doesn't make sense, writing down. For some people, it's poetry. For some people, it's talking it out with somebody. Whatever works for you, you do that. Just before I take get Raheema to read out the text message, I just want to say we've got a show, The Joys and Struggles of Motherhood, with Zebnisa Pathan on Sunday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Ramadan Radio, 87.7 FM. So do tune into that. That's The Joys and Struggles of Motherhood with Zebnisa Pathan, Sunday, 1 to 2 p.m.
I think this is someone sent in a statistic specifically related to domestic violence, but 2 women a week are killed by a current or former partner in England or Wales. That's from the Office of National Statistics.
Yeah, and it's pretty scary, but it is true. Yeah,
and I think there are other Radio Ramadan programs that we can highlight what the things that are coming up where domestic violence will be like discussed on the show.
I haven't got those details on me now. Have you got them, Raheema?
I think we can ask the producer to put a link onto our show. And that would be really useful.
And I think that would be really good and quite. The other thing that I wanted to talk about quickly, I know we're really short of time, is self-harm. And just to tell our listeners that self-harm is not the same as suicide. People who are self-harming are not attempting suicide. They're not. That's not what they're doing. Self-harm is a coping strategy often for people because they're unable to cope with what's going on. So they may cut. They may, it may be just, pinching themselves. It could be anything, just to help them to cope.
It'd be so in terms of people that you may have supported with self-harm, what kind of strategies help with kind of moving away from
self-harming? Yeah. So it's about maybe finding safe ways to do that. So I can remember supporting a young person, and I gave her elastic bands. And at that time, I was a foster carer, so I was caring for this child. She was a teenager, and that helped her. So when she felt really overwhelmed, she would pull the elastic band, and that would help her. And obviously, that's not going to work for everybody, but psychological therapy, I think, is really important. So getting that kind of support, talking to somebody about what they're feeling about, because often the self-harm is an outlet because they have got no other outlet.
And if you're at home listening into this and your sibling or you're a parent and you've seen signs of your child potentially self-harming, or you found a razor in the bedroom, or you've seen cuts in places where they wouldn't ordinarily stand out, what support is out there for concerned parents or family members of individuals, Rehana?
There is support out there for families as well. So if you Google, there are many organizations like Mind. You can get fact sheets and information. There's specific sections for families that they can go to. The one thing I advise you not to do is shout and judge that person. They will withdraw even more, and it would have a negative impact. And you want to keep the channels of communication open. Be non-judgmental and love them regardless. If they feel loved, they're more likely to feel able to open up to you, and you can have a positive influence on that person.
Definitely, that's good tips there, Rehana. And actually, I think the likelihood is if you have that relationship of trust with your sibling, your child, then they're most likely to come to you in their point of struggle.
Exactly, and I think that's...
We just need to reassure the people that we love that it's okay not to be okay.
That's right. And I think that's why, I always recommend that you equip yourselves with the knowledge, have basic mental health awareness, so you're able to not only take care of yourself, you're able to support your loved ones, your friends, or anybody out there. Having that basic knowledge will help you do that. And like I say, be non-judgmental, be open, and so that your child or your loved one or whoever it is able to turn to you, even if that's in the workplace, wherever.
And if it's yourself who's struggling with your mental health, don't suffer in silence as well. Like,
Yeah.
you're not a failure because you're struggling with your mental health. Get help. Reach out to people.
That's right. I think it's really, really important. There is so much support out there. And I know sometimes it's like, well, I don't want anybody to know. People are going to find out. There's lots of confidential services out there that you can access depending on what it is you need. In our final show in 2 weeks' time, I'll compile a list and we'll read it out. We've only got a minute to go, Raheema. I just want to talk about next week's show. I know. Next week, we're going to be talking about children and young people's mental health. And we have Yusuf Mangera, who's a CBT therapist in the studio. And we will be having Sahar Beg, who is a founder of MindWorks and who's a psychotherapist, who will be joining us on Zoom. And obviously we'll have the wonderful Raheema as well. So please do tune in. So next week we will be talking about children and young people's mental health. Any final tips or anything that you'd like to say before we end the show today, Raheema?
Just to say that giving of yourself to others and making sacrifices should not be at the detriment of your mental health. So always keep yourself in mind, put yourself forward in all circumstances and think, is this going to be good for me? Can I do this? If not, just say, I'm sorry, and take yourself out of that equation.
Totally agree. Wonderful advice, Raheema.